not stop having nightmares, and a strange, heavy little blanket that made them stop completely in a single night. This is one of my favourite pages in this whole journal. Not because it's the most exciting story I know, but because it's the one that made me cry the very first time I heard it. And I think by the end tonight, you might understand why. In a small village, there lived a weaver named Anya. She lived alone at the very end of the last street, in a little house that always smelled faintly of wool and lavender. Most of Anya's blankets were simple, soft, warm, well made, nothing unusual. But every so often, for reasons nobody understood, Anya made a very different kind of blanket, and whoever received one of those special blankets stopped having nightmares completely, overnight. No one in the village knew how she did it, and Anya never once explained. A young mother named Kat came to her one evening, exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Her 5-year-old daughter had been waking up screaming every single night for weeks. Nothing had helped. Not songs, not night lights, not sitting beside her bed until morning. "I heard you can help," Kat said quietly, almost too embarrassed to ask. Anya looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Come back in 3 nights," she said. "I'll need to make something." For 3 whole nights, no one saw Anya leave her house. No smoke even rose from her chimney at the usual hour. Some villagers, curious and a little nosy, said they heard the soft, steady clack of a loom late into the night. Others swore they saw a strange pale blue light glowing faintly behind her curtains. One old man even knocked on her door on the second night, worried something was wrong. Anya only opened it a crack, said she was fine, and quietly closed it again. No one knew what she was making in there, only that it was taking every ounce of her attention. On the 3rd night, Anya finally opened her door and handed Kat a small, neatly folded blanket. It felt heavier than it looked, almost strangely so. "Wrap her in this tonight," Anya said, "just tonight, and come tell me what happens." Kat walked home holding that blanket like it was made of glass, half hopeful, half afraid to believe it would actually work. That night, something happened that Kat would never forget. For the first time in weeks, her daughter slept straight through the night. No screaming, no crying, just deep, quiet, peaceful sleep until the sun came up. Kat ran back to Anya's house the very next morning, tears in her eyes. "What did you do?" she asked. what's inside this blanket. Anya only smiled gently and said, "That's not something I can explain in words, but I can show you if you'd like." She led Kat inside to a small back room Anya had never let anyone see. In the corner sat her old loom, and beside it a wooden box filled with smooth, heavy little stones, each one no bigger than a fingertip, and strands of thread dyed a deep, quiet blue. "I sew the stones between the layers," Anya explained, running her fingers over the fabric, evenly, carefully, so the whole blanket sits with a gentle weight, everywhere at once. Kat frowned, confused. "Wait, that's the whole secret, just heavy stones?" "There's more to it than that," Anya said quietly, "but that part, at least, I can prove to you." "Now, my dear, here is something true, something I only learned much later myself, and it made this story mean even more to me. There is a real kind of comfort that comes from gentle, even weight pressing against the body. Scientists call it deep pressure. It's the same reason a tight hug can calm a crying child, or why some people simply sleep better under a heavier blanket. That gentle, even weight can quiet a racing mind. It slows a fast heartbeat. It tells the whole body gently that it's safe now, that it can finally rest. Anya, it turned out, had discovered this secret decades before any scientist ever gave it a name. But the stones alone weren't the whole story. Kat still didn't understand the deep blue thread, or why Anya had grown quiet and sad while explaining it. "Why blue?" Kat finally asked. "Why this exact color every single time?" Anya was silent for a long moment. Then she sat down slowly, as if the question itself was heavy to carry. "Because it was my son's favorite color," she said softly, "before I lost him." Years ago, Anya explained, her own son had suffered terrible nightmares too as a small boy. Nothing had helped him either, not until she desperately wrapped him tightly in every blanket she owned, layered together, just to make him feel held. It worked. He slept peacefully after that, every single night, for years. He grew up loving that same deep blue, the color of the very first special blanket she'd ever made. When he passed, far too young, from a fever no one could explain, Anya kept weaving that same color into every blanket since. "Every child I help sleep," she told Kat quietly, "is a little bit like holding him." Kat didn't know what to say. She simply reached out and held Anya's hand, the way you hold someone's hand when words simply aren't enough. From that day on, word quietly spread through the village and then far beyond it over the years that followed. Parents from farther and farther away began making the long journey to Anya's door, always at dusk, always a little desperate, always leaving with a small, heavy, deep blue blanket and a much lighter heart. Anya never once charged a single coin for them, not one in all her years. She grew old doing this. Kat's daughter grew up too, and one winter, many years later, arrived at Anya's door herself, now a grown woman, with a small child of her own struggling to sleep. Anya, very old by then, hands trembling slightly, still sat down at her loom that same night, still reached for the deep blue thread and the small smooth stones, just as she always had. "You don't have to keep doing this," the now grown daughter said gently, seeing how tired Anya had become. "I know," Anya said, smiling softly, "but I want to. Every blanket is still him somehow, and I'm not ready to stop holding him yet." Anya passed peacefully not long after that, wrapped, they say, in one of her own blankets, deep blue thread woven through it, one final time. The villagers found her loom afterward, and beside it, careful notes written in her own hand, teaching anyone who wished to learn exactly how to weave the stones, and the thread, and the quiet, patient love that went into every single one. Some say her pattern is still used today, passed quietly from one weaver to another, one grieving, hopeful heart to the next. I think, my dear, that some of the deepest comfort we ever receive was first born from someone else's deepest loss. So tonight, if you have your own blanket pulled up around you, feel its weight for just a moment. Let it hold you the way Anya held every child who ever needed her. You are safe, you are held, and someone somewhere once loved deeply enough to weave that comfort into the world for you. Next time, I'll tell you about a river that remembered things no one else could. But that's a story for another night. Sleep now. Grandma Rose will come back again. Sweet dreams, my dear.